Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of the NSPKU podcast. And obviously, my name is Tom. I'm an adult with PKU, so I'm 33 and I have 8 exchanges. And what we do with this NSPKU podcast is kind of hear from different voices within the community about a variety of different topics. Now, what we're going to be talking today is not necessarily what the NSPKU think, but we want to provide that platform to give people that opportunity to talk about their life, talk about how PKU is impacted in it, and then what they're doing in and around the world of PKU. So, with me today, we've got Suzanne Ford. Suzanne, if you'd like to
Hello.
introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Suzanne Ford. I'm a dietitian and I work partly for the NHS and partly for the NSPKU.
Okay, and today we have Ian, our special guest. Suzanne, if you'd like to give us a bit of background, if people don't know who Ian is, I think everyone's probably heard of things that has done. But what would his bio, his story of his life would be?
I think of Ian as Running Man, even though he's oh no, I'm not that really. And also Mr. Modesty. But I first met Ian. I'd been doing my NSPKU job for just over a year or so, and in May 2018, excuse me, Ian was finishing the Thames Path 100. That means running 100 miles in more or less in one go in 24 hours or 25 hours because it was really hot. And I went to meet him at the end of that. And so that was 7 years ago. And pretty much, I think most years since then, Ian has been doing one run or other for the NSPKU, including during some of the lockdowns. Ian ran dressed as a fairy, a green fairy around his village. And did I think what's called a watching line marathon, which is running a marathon but up and down a car park. And then also Ian has run in between PKU clinics for the first time in 2023 and then also this summer, 2025. So I had wanted to do a podcast. I'd wanted Tom to do a podcast about advocacy and awareness raising, really trying to get PKU out there um, in the public's minds. And during these runs, Ian does an awful lot of that as well. So Ian is a person on a mission with legs moving fast and also well, yeah, you do a lot of talking as well and a lot of awareness raising, Ian. Would that be fair? Have I described things accurately?
I think you've described it very well. I think that's about sums me up.
So, explain to explain to everybody kind of how did you first come across PKU? How does PKU impact into your life?
22 or nearly 22 years ago, it impacted on my life when we were told our daughter Molly had PKU. I was one of those who had never heard of it, didn't have the slightest idea about it whatsoever. So going through the same as what every parent goes through those early years, through the teenage years, watching them leave the nest and praying they're going to still do things that they should do. Um, I'm just the typical PKU parent who every parent has gone through exactly the same things as I've been through.
So, but most of them don't end up running around the country
Right.
for the condition.
No,
When has it always been kind of, did it reach a point where you're like, I want to start getting the message out there with PKU? Had it started off in small bits with, like, just being around your daughter and the local network sort of thing? How did you get into shouting all about PKU?
I think just before the Thames past 100, when I did my first, what they call ultra run, which was 63 miles, and that was south to north of Cumbria. I thought it was so far out of my comfort zone. I thought now would be a perfect chance to raise some funds because everybody raises funds within running, I noticed. But I only put it out to the people who I was in a running club, an online running club. So I only put it on there, link on there, and just hoped I could raise a few pounds or whatever. And then when the 100 mile come along, that's when I had the idea of creating a little mascot who could be more interesting than I am. And that 100 miles again was so far out of the zone. So I kind of pushed the fundraising out a little bit more. And each year it's just got more and more. And then the lockdown kind of done me a favour with fundraising, really, because the one Suzanne just referred to, running around the town dressed as a fairy, that was actually a Christmas time one. But I thought I'd run every road, street, avenue dressed as not a nice, pretty fairy. This is a ridiculously ugly, horribly
A
dressed fairy.
stripy legged
Yeah,
fairy. And you had the
yeah,
tub, you were carrying the tub.
yeah. Yeah. So that was the first time I was really putting myself out there with strangers watching me. I mean, doing the runs, you got people running next to you, and you're not in stupid costume. So that was the first time I really put myself out there, and the newspaper then picked up on that and done a little article. So when it came to the following Christmas, I did it. I think I was dressed as an inflatable turkey on that one. I was happy to tell the paper I was doing it that time, and everybody in the town. I told all them about it, and I told the school that I worked at. And then during lockdowns, that washing line one you referred to, we're literally talking about 100 meter stretch that I just ran up and down, up and down. Even if I don't even know if it's that far. Again, I could spread that around the town. So each year, each time I've done it, I've been more braver with pushing it out there, and getting more. When I first got ITV involved, I was as nervous as anything about that one. But they came out, and now they've been on board with everything I've done. So each year has just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and more awareness every time. But I still suffer with people watching me there, running
But
around.
it got to the point where you, you know the people at Cumbria Gazette. It is Cumbria Gazette, isn't it? I think your
It's
local paper.
no, I don't know. It is the
Oh, there's
News
a
and Star,
Carlisle.
the News and
That's it.
Star, and the Cumberland News.
That's it. And they
Yeah,
both, and I think they've both had newspaper articles about you more
yeah,
than once, and ITV Borders definitely more than once. And
yeah,
so you're you're running dressed in green with green hair. You're
yeah,
obviously looking different, and you've got NSPKU written thing in places, I think, um and before you do your run, you do various social media posts and things like that.
yeah,
And whilst you're running, you're telling people and you're contacting the social media. And contacting these different media, the TV, the newspaper. So I think what you're doing, although it's really important and your main aim seems to me, as I understand it, is fundraising. In the whole process of this, there's so many more people who know about PKU.
Oh, definitely. Um, so the school I work in has 14, just under 1,400 students, 200 staff. Um, so many people at the school know about it. Everybody in this town probably knows about it. Certainly the people in the local press know about it. Um, it definitely raises awareness. People do know more about it now than when I first started doing it.
And how does Molly feel about you doing all this raising awareness? Obviously, it started off mild and small and keeps getting more and more elaborate. Is how does she feel about it all?
She at first she kind of struggled with it at first though, because she was asked to do put a picture in the paper, and she was asked to speak so and so and so and so, and everybody, there was a lot of people at school never knew about her PKU, but she never told them. And now I'm putting myself around it and splashing it all over the pages and everything online. So she had no choice. So I think she struggled with it a little bit at first. But then after a while, she came on board with it. But now she's too busy working to even notice some of the things I do anyway. But it took her a while to get on board with it all.
I think that's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's that idea of like that association of person with condition and being thrown out into the public eye,
Yeah,
isn't it, in a
yeah,
sense?
yeah,
And and I think that's a real, I think we've talked quite a lot, mainly within like the PKU community of like trying to blend in and trying to not stand out and trying to not necessarily be the visible difference in a sense. And then here you are going, this condition that you've never heard of, I have
yeah,
it. And
yeah.
it's quite a mindset change, isn't it, in a sense? And that I can understand why initially would struggle with it because it's that, you don't want that judgment, do you? Or you don't know what people might think by based on that knowledge of you with that liver condition or something like that.
I mean, in the running world, if we go back those 7 years to the Thames Path, because Molly was there as well at the end when Molly met Suzanne as well. She was absolutely fine with people she knew she weren't going to be bumping into every day. They weren't her schoolmates and all that. She
Mm.
wasn't going to see anybody from Thames Path again. Um, and she was always fine with other people outside of our life, basically, outside of the day-to-day life kind of thing. But I think she struggled more with her friends knowing and teachers knowing and things like that.
Yeah, I think we all, I think people that you're never going to meet again, who matters, isn't it? Of what
Yeah,
people think of that. It's that
yeah,
that network, and I think everyone comes to talking about the condition at a different time, don't they? In terms of like comfortability or okay, I'm ready to tell my network. Or some people are just straight out there.
yeah,
I'm just going to be open in front, and people can decide whether they want to be friends with me or not, or they get a free chocolate bar because I can't have it. So that's what gained me a few friends when I was at school, sort of
yeah.
thing. So, but for other people, they do just shy away, and I think that kind of, you know, there is no right time, is there, to kind of be comfortable with it. Did you
No,
find that
no.
as a parent with that in terms of feeling comfortable with being like, yeah, I can tell everybody that my daughter has PKU? Was that
You,
from
I
day
think you
one,
kind
or
of,
was that a progressional thing?
no, I think from day one, certainly with me, you had no choice but to be comfortable with it because that's what you're dealing with and that's what you got to do every day of your life. I was more, there was more, it was more prominent when there was moments of discomfort. I was quite happy to tell everybody about, if Molly went and stayed over at a friend's house, I don't have a problem telling them, oh, you can't do this, can't do that, can't do this, whatever, or a school trip was a complete nightmare. So I kind of felt comfortable with telling everybody I had to tell at the time. You have no choice. You
Hmm.
had to do it.
I think yeah, it's that you just get on with it sort of thing. So when did you decide to incorporate the obviously you have a love for exercise and running or exploring? You're shaking your
Love
head, but you
a love-hate relationship, perhaps, is it?
Yeah, I definitely do not have a loving relationship with exercise.
so you don't do you come up with the I want to do Bristol to Newcastle or
Yes,
like
yes.
how do you pick these routes?
If you go back to, well, purely 2 years ago was the first one, and I think that was from London to Newcastle. The route is purely decided by where there's hospitals that deal with PKU. And it's a matter of, when I first suggested 10 days, nearly 400 miles, I knew it was a stupid thing I was saying. But Sharon then likes, she's the one who gets me to be in a position to be able to do that event. But it's all planned by, I give her a list of hospitals plus a list of places where I can get to stay every night, and then Sharon comes up with a route. Once we've got accommodation, the hospitals on board, and the route sorted out, then I can go mad and tell everybody about it and get all the press involved and everybody else. But there's a lot of things goes on before I even announce I'm doing this thing.
I won't
Tells me
ask.
secretly. So I do have a question now that I think over time I've seen that you understand publicity, and even though you're probably going to say, "Oh no, I don't," you know how to hook people into the story, how to get the TV people to go, "Oh yes, that's really interesting." What's your tips for explaining PKU to somebody in the media? And
I
you
tell
must,
the people in the media when they, right, first of all, the reason for dressing as a fairy, as an inflatable turkey, and doing the 10 days twice now, you have to have something that's going to catch the eye in the first place, right? I mean, if I say I want to fundraise to run a marathon down the road, no one going to bat an eyelid. So you have to come up with this ridiculous thing in the first place.
green hair,
Yeah, and the length of the run,
350 miles in 10 days.
yes, because one, I don't think I can do that. And two, it'll make people look up when you say you're going to try and run that amount of
Yeah.
distance. So you have to have that. You have to have the wow factor involved in the first place. And then when it
Maybe.
comes, when for somebody who's never ran a marathon, right, their wow factor is they're going to run a marathon,
True.
and that's good. But when you're getting people who run them quite regularly, people don't worry about that so much no more for me.
Yeah.
But
You wanted to wow your running club friends.
yes, and
But you've told the ITV borders and you've told the news and stars and all of that.
yeah.
And you're good at explaining PKU.
Well, when you've got that wow factor event in your mind, you can go to the paper with that, and that makes them sit up and look at it. And then when it comes to explaining why you're doing it, it's no different explaining to them than it is to the person you meet down the street or the other parent in the school playground. It's exactly the same. You have to go through exactly the same things you tell anybody about it whatsoever. The good thing about the papers is I can give them other people's emails like yours and the experts and all that type of thing, so they can get a bit more involved than you can a parent down the school.
So
Like I
we
said,
are we are the media now. Ian,
Yes,
explain to us what PKU is, and as if you were. We are wowed by your outfit. We love your run. What are you running for? And explain. And it'd be really interesting because I have my way of explaining PKU. So it'd be very interesting to see what your way is of
I
explaining
always,
PKU.
I always try and keep it very simple with everybody, and I'll say my normal thing, and I still use this one now. I'll say, imagine, what did you have for breakfast this morning? And they'll tell me. And I'll say, right, let's reduce that to half a slice of white bread. So you've had your half a slice of white bread. Now, you have had all the protein your body needs for that day. So everything else you eat has to be protein free. And they look at you and think, well, what's protein free? Right. So you have to then explain what food you can't eat. Right. So I said, once you've eaten that bit of white bread, then you can't go out and have your meat, your fish, your dairy, everything you list that we all list many a time. And that, I literally just explain it that way. And but that's because I understand that in my head. It's a simple way for me to understand it and say
Very
it at the same
effective.
time.
This is a question for Tom and you both. When you're not doing an official awareness thing, but you're doing your run of the mill, living your lives, supporting Molly. I realize that Molly is like grown up now, and Tom and Ian. Do you find the explaining tiring? Because I think that's what we underestimate, that always explaining is tiring and
Yeah,
wearing.
it is tiring. It is because you have to. The only time it's not tiring, funnily enough, is when I'm doing these runs, right? And you might meet somebody in the street or along the run, and you're quite happy to explain them. But in normal day-to-day life, yeah, you can. And even when I am in the middle of fundraising in the school I work at, a teacher may come up to me and, oh, I see you're doing this and you're running there, and what I've never heard of PKU, what is it? And you might only get down the end of the corridor, and then somebody else asks you, right? And then you tell them exactly the same thing again. You might go around the corner to go and empty a bin somewhere, and somebody else asks you. So it does get tiring, right? Because
Yeah.
you're just saying the same thing over and over and over again. But you can't let them know you're saying it for the 15th time that day. Still have to be the jolly old self saying it for the first time.
Amazing energy. I mean, really, it's very inspiring. Really is. And I think, you know, giving people that, what I haven't said so far on this little podcast that we're doing is I became interested in this awareness raising just as not as a means to, oh, we need to do this awareness raising to achieve X, Y, or Z end goal, but actually just because having a really rare disorder people don't know about can be a little bit stigmatizing for the people in our community, especially our younger community members. The younger people with PKU can find it a little bit stigmatizing because they're different and people don't understand how they're different. They have to explain, which can make them feel awkward. And I think the more general awareness raising people can do who are in the community who are a little bit older, a little bit more established, a bit more confident, that's paving the way for others to feel more able to disclose their own PKU. That's that's how I'm interested in what you're doing. Um,
I
so
think
I
the,
I think it's important.
yeah, I think the kids, they do carry a stigma around with them. Um, I can't see how the kids want to be like their mates. They want to be the same as their mates, and they want to go and eat fast food. They want to go and do this. They want to. They don't want to stand there and be different and tell people they're different, because then you've got eyes looking at you and you've got questions coming at you and whatever else may come at you. But they just want to be the same. They don't. I think it must be really hard as a kid. When you're an adult, you can explain it better and talk your way out with these things. But when you're a kid, I think it's a lot different.
I'm quite open when I'm at work or when, like, as an adult and that sort of thing. But I guess reflecting upon, um, I want to blend as much as I can when I'm at restaurants, so to speak. So, I've been to restaurants where you have that kind of, you contact them before and make sure a nice dish has been made or something. And my mum used to do that all the time when I was a kid. But then if I'm to go out now this evening to want to eat, I will pick a place where I can just order off the menu because I don't want to go through the hassle of trying to select certain things to not be in certain dishes or something like that because I don't want, I think this is what Ian's saying of this idea of like, I just want to look, I may look like I've got a lot of sides compared to a lot of other people, but I'm ordering everything that's on the menu. And when they go, does anybody have any allergies? I never say I do. And that for me is as blending as possible in a sense, in an environment that probably you shouldn't be judged, but I always feel like you will be because you're being a bit difficult or you're trying to select a meal that you bespokely want to make or something like that. So I guess every environment that I'm in, I'm normally quite open and chatty about my PKU or I say it's my broken liver, um, which scientifically is not correct, I know, but it gets the job done. And then, but in a restaurant, want to blend as much as I can. I take my scales for sure. That doesn't blend me in any way, shape, or form, but the food is blending enough. So yeah, I think, I talk about PKU or I say I have PKU to people depending on who it is, I phrase it in different ways, which I think is quite different. So, I got offered a party ring today at work, and I was like, okay, I can't have it because I've got a liver condition, which you can, like, or I'm vegan, or I'm wheat free. And the wheat free is an intolerance, and that's the thing that knocked out party rings for me, not PKU. So I said it's the trifecta. As long as it passes all those points, then yes, I can have that thing. But but that's to work colleagues, and I think there's like Ian was saying, when you get to an adult stage, I think people are a lot more forgiving, or they've come across someone with an allergy or diabetes or something that's changed someone's way of living. Whereas kids, you want to mask as much as you can. I think that's what a lot of people are like. So that's
I
where
think when
advocacy and seeing like people like Ian is really useful to kind of go, oh, well, that person's willing to run around looking like this and saying about PKU, and I'm just having a problem talking to someone about it. That really shouldn't be the case. I should be building my confidence. I should be going out there and going, it's okay to say this sort of thing. But you were going to say something, Ian.
yeah, when Molly was younger and she'd come home and say, "Oh, my friend's got a party next weekend," and I go for it. I know then straight away I've got to go and see the parent of this child and explain the situation. And when you explain the situation, it happened numerous times. You have that glazed over look in their eyes, and I think more than anything, they probably panic that they're going to give your kid something they shouldn't eat, and they're going to drop down dead. And then the invitation kind of disappears to this party. Um, and that happened on a good few times. Um, and it also as well with the PKU, it's not a fashionable thing, right? We don't see people on the TV running around the country making millions of pounds for charity like we do with certain other things, right? So it's not a fashionable, popular thing. So I'm interested in whether any of the awareness, like what I try and do and what other people do, whether it does actually, is it making as much awareness as I think it's making?
Well, I think it is, and I've tried to convince Ian about this before, and I think A, PKU families opening a local newspaper, seeing a mention of PKU, there's representation there. B, you're like a role model for your PK, you're doing PKU and proud, not PKU hide away. And the other thing is that, out there, there's um soon to be new parents who will have a diagnosis, 70 or so babies a year in the UK, maybe a few more. And they might never have heard of PKU, but then again, they might have opened the paper or watched ITV border and seen a man with green hair running 370 or 350 miles. So it's that kind of help for the community, help for people seeing each other, help for people who are new parents, and just that general baseline awareness that some of our campaign will then build on as well. So I think it's just can't be under the significance of it can't be overstated, should I
But
say,
that,
of the
but
of that work that you've done.
but can the awareness reach people outside of the PKU world?
Yes, we keep going, we keep going.
You know, I mean,
Absolutely.
the people
Yes.
who have no PKU in their family whatsoever,
Yeah.
they've never heard of it before. Their chances are they may never come across it in their life. You know, does it reach them, and does it make a difference reaching those people outside of the PKU world?
I think it does. I think it knocks in, oh, that's a really intriguing and unusual disease, or oh, I wonder if I know anyone, or would we ever have that in our family? And it is an interesting disorder, and we are now becoming more and more aware of rare disorders in all, rare metabolic disorders, rare blood disorders, rare whatever, And so I think we as a society are a little bit more aware of that, and we're more interested and open to the diverse experiences that of people have through their health conditions. Um,
Yeah.
I think we need to keep going. And I think what I'm hoping is in through this podcast that you will inspire more people, Ian. Not necessarily that they have to run 372 miles or get dressed as a fairy with stripy green legs, but just that whole thing of actually, you know what? We've got something very interesting in our family that we live with, and this is what it is. And, you know, it's worth having it's a human interest story. It's worth telling people about it, not being shy and hiding the light under the bushel, as it were.
Yeah. I think like for me, when I was growing up, if the people around you were positive about the condition or a big advocate for the condition, and in terms of like being open and talking about it and it not being a shunned thing or wishing the child didn't have this or something like that, I think it can't be understated how much that rubs off on various different people. So we are quite a new, you know, condition in the sense of like
Yeah,
the amount of people that we have and the ages of people that we have and that sort of thing. I teach 160 students and all of them know I've got PKU. And eventually, not I'm not saying that will change the world, but I'm saying that that will open people's eyes. And I think if someone sees, I see you do your crazy running and I run 10K and that's as enough as I'm happy with. And I did one half marathon once and got really injured afterwards, and that scared me off. So it's, but then you go, well, you might be doing those distances, but I think your first initial thing where it's like, I wanted to just do a marathon because I think I could try and do it. And I think that initial spark that you had for running, if there's a family member that just runs a tiny bit, goes, why don't I attach talking about PKU to my next run that I do? And that then ripples across because the people that they run with will talk about it. And if you're proud and talk, I'm sure Molly's opinion of the condition got is has improved the more everyone around her talks about it too.
yeah,
And because this is an accepted thing amongst everybody. And I think this is where that ripple effect of anybody that wants to do any form of advocacy is, don't be afraid to talk about it. And don't be afraid to kind of go, this is what, because if we don't talk about it, no one's ever going to find out about it, are they? And it's like you said, there's no big famous person running to build, you haven't got Mo Farah running for the condition, but we've got people that do their job and do their bits and put the work in, and that then slowly builds. Because I see now loads of people younger than me, although because I'm not that old, but they are younger than me. Um, really into exercise with PKU and really pushing that button. And I don't want it to be like you have to move and then PKU sponsorship and that sort of stuff. But, you know, that wasn't when I was growing up, people wouldn't think about doing that sort of stuff. People wouldn't have a normal job and have PKU and then talk about it. Everyone would kind of just exist. And if you were happy with your condition and you existed with the condition, then you're doing a good job. And now it's like we've existed for far too long. Now let's talk about it. And the families talk about it. And we start, and I think that's what you're doing. You know, every time I see it, I go, well, maybe I should run a little bit more. Every time I see you do your running. But I also go, well, you know, you're posting to social media more than I'm posting, and I have the damn condition. So what am I
So there
doing?
we
You know,
go.
and that's the ripple effect of that. If that person's willing to talk about the condition, why can't I? And it's not about calling people out. It's not about making people feel guilty. It's just about going, well, you've built this platform that you like to do. I am going to ask you what's next. And I think that's a really interesting thing of what how do you beat these? Because every runner's got to beat one the next one. That's what it seems like.
That's the
So
problem. Mm.
but like, you know, that's your personal challenges and you're intertwining PKU with those personal challenges that you're setting yourself with a bit of fundraising attached to it. So yeah, I don't what would I know you probably won't like this question, Ian, but why should people talk about PKU in your mind? Like, why should people do what you're doing, as in getting out there and getting people to listen to it?
That's not an easy question, really, because why should people do it? Um, See, I do it. I'm doing it for two things, right? And at first, the awareness bit never even came into my head about it. The first thing was raise funds for NSPKU, right? That was my first mission, and that mission has stuck all throughout. And then you start when people start asking you about it, you can raise awareness about it. Um, it would just be nice for other people to do anything they can do, whatever it is they're doing for raising funds and awareness. We just need to get out there and just get the word out there. And I don't know if I ever wanted to be as big as one of these fashionable things out in the world.
You're a PKU influencer.
We quite like our little family of PKUers, but it would be nice if the wider world and the more people who can do anything, whatever it is, whatever their challenge is, it would just be good if more people were just, like you say, chipping away at the others and just the ripple effect, and the more of us doing it, the more ripples we'll have. Well,
Yeah. I think that is a lovely summarization to kind of leave this chat on then, Ian. So thank you for your time. I will quickly ask what is next, or can you tell us, or is it in the planning stages, or is it in
well, my wife is listening here, right? And
I
so
thought she might be.
the,
You
the
can't
10 day,
say.
the two 10 day things were going to be every 2 years because it's too big a thing to do every year. And when we finished the last one, Sharon did turn around and say, if you do another one, it has to finish in Birmingham because they were just fantastic in Birmingham. So, she's not close to another one, but I haven't quite worked out what is next. But if anything is, but I'll be nearly 60 in 2 years' time, so I don't even know if I'll be able to do any one. But it
no,
would
you
be
might just
another
have to
year.
reduce the distance down, maybe. You know,
Yeah,
join me
but
at the
then that's
10Ks. There you go.
but then that's not as that's. I think it has to be more than the last one. But
Lead a
I
little
don't,
army,
I'll,
Ian's
I'll have
army.
I'll have to see what hospitals left that we haven't visited, and then come up with something.
PKU hospital bingo sheet. That's what you need. And
Yeah,
starting to
that's the
do.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. Well, cheers for your time then, Ian. It's been great to have a chat with you, and hopefully loads of people have been inspired by just, whatever that little challenge might be. It doesn't have to be exercise, it doesn't have to be running. It's just about kind of doing that and voicing PKU at the same time. And I think that's really clearly come across. So yeah, thank you for your time, Ian. Thank you for your
Been
time,
a pleasure.
Suzanne. And yeah, that's been our episode today. If there is any comments and feedback that you've got about the podcast, let us know. And if there's any topics that you'd like us to cover, then we are more than welcome to cover them in the future. This has been the third NSPKU podcast, and
And if you want to
I
be a guest on Tom's podcast, if you want to be sitting here chatting with
there you
Tom,
go.
please do let us know.
Yep, get in touch. And now I'm feeling very advocated to try and do a run. So thanks for that, Ian. And cheers,
Cheers,
everyone. Have a good rest of the day.